Well, well, what do we have here? MBT playing Infernity. Now, as some people might know, I'm not MBT's biggest fan, the opposite actually. I'm still kind of salty about him taking my Trident Launcher TG deck. Basically stealing it back in the day, but it's whatever, you know, I'm not gonna hold grudges forever. Would be nice if he came forward at least somewhat apologized or, like, told me a friend gave it to him or something, you know. At least explanation would have been nice. Yo, my deck got stolen, I didn't know it got stolen. I'm not gonna enter some thrift copy pasta here. Regardless, he played Infernity in his review here. As you could expect, multiple people immediately messaged me like, hey, wanna cringe, go watch his review here. So first off, MBT. Honestly, my utmost respect for even playing this deck and doing a pretty decent job at it. Some people might expect me to go in on MBT, but really I didn't see any major mistakes from his side. Obviously we don't know how he sided, we didn't know what he had in his hand, but from the info we had, he did a really well job, so MBT, if somehow you're watching this, you know, well done. Gameplay wise, you did nothing wrong, yeah. The build, honestly, saying it's terrible might be an understatement. This is perhaps, yeah, this is definitely one of the worst lists I've seen in a while. Even if you consider it for the time, you know, it's not great, it's not great. Then again, Infernity deck building back then was a bit questionable, and there are some choices in here that just don't make a lot of sense. Yeah, and yeah, once again, credit to MBT for playing this. It's probably one of the hardest decks to get into if you're not used to playing it. The only decks that match it, that might be seen in the history review here in the future, is something like DDD, if they even play it, because it's only really been great in DG for like a week, since we got Street Deck half year, or even a year behind the OCG. Synchro Fusionist and Dark Synchro, you know, those decks are maybe harder, but besides that, Infernity, if you don't know what you're doing, it's a very hard deck. It's very difficult to get anything going, and he did a pretty nice job. Now, the deck list. There's a few good things in there, but a lot of bad things that just don't make a lot of sense. Where do I even start? Right. A lot of people criticized Triple Infernity Inferno. I'm pretty sure Simo even criticized it, which just doesn't make sense at all. Infernity Inferno was a 3-off at the time, and I don't think that's even in the discussion. Thing is, sure, it's a trap, so it's a bit slow, but it gets your key piece in the graveyard. It makes your Necromancers, your Launchers, your Mirages, it makes everything live. Your top deck Archfiend will suddenly be full combo. There's just no easy other way to do things in this format, you know? You need to get those cards in the grave no matter what. So Triple Inferno only makes sense. It seems like a slow card. Since it's a trap, requires you to discard up to 2 cards, and you can set that many Infernity monsters from the deck to the grave. Like, what else are you gonna run back then, you know? You had to. You didn't have Lavalval Chain, you didn't have Cherubini, you know? So, once again, those choices are fine, but then you look at some choices in the main deck. DD Crow, there's definitely arguments for it, but I'm not sure if we would main deck them in Infernity. Yes, very devastating hand trap, it wins games on its own, especially in the mirror matches, but you need a target in the grave to do anything, if I'm not mistaken, so going first it just does nothing. Granted, Infernity usually won't do much going first, like it's a combo deck, but it needs set up, especially back then. Gorse is just a terrible choice, I wouldn't run it no matter what. You need to trigger it when it's the only card in your hand, and if they're somehow able to play around it, you're stuck with a card you can't easily ditch. Yes, Dark Graph exists, but Decklist is even running Reinforcements of the Army, which I'm not sure if it was even legal. Pretty sure this is the same ban list as back then. Reinforcements of the Army was at 1. Right, here. Yeah, this decklist wasn't playing it. That's something I don't get. 1 Rota, 1 Dark Greffer is always better than just 2 Dark Greffers in a deck that resolves around Atlas comboing. This does bring up on the table stuff like cheating allegations, which I'm not getting into, but there's definitely a lot of, well, people blaming the first players for cheating back then, which, you know, is hard to make a judgment call about. Then there's Infernity Beetle. Mistworm is a strong card, but it's no Trishula, it's not worth running the Garnets for. Not only are you running additional monsters that don't really start your combos, if you draw 2 or even 1 in a handful of monsters, it's gonna be hard to empty your hand at times. Beetle breaks you, and the synchros you go into with Beetle are nice, but it's just not that great. If you run Beetle back then, I would even just argue for running 1 copy. which might sound crazy, but like, if you think about it, sure, you only get one tuner and its effect on the field isn't available, but it just, you want the most consistency possible, and Beetle just breaks you. You're running way too many monsters at the moment. Triple Archfiend, triple Necromancer, triple Beetle, double Mirage, with only really launchers to empty your hand turn 1. I can imagine a lot of hands where it will take 2 or 3 turns to empty your hand. You don't have that time. You want to take 1 turn to set up, 1 turn to go in and finish them. That's how you play Infernity back then. This is too much of a high monster count. I would cut a Beetle and maybe pump Merge to 3, or keep that 2, I'm not sure. Arguments to be made to pump it to 3. Which some people might disagree with, but yeah. Other stuff that kind of stands out. I mean, Plague Spreader kind of makes sense. I probably would run 1, yeah. We already talked about reinforcements of the army in here. What about Allure? Wasn't it limited or was it outright banned at the time? I can't find it right now. Yeah, it's limited. Another card you definitely should have played in here. Like, once again, not blaming MBT since he obviously took the deck from the internet. Internet, a deck that was played back then like this. But you know, that kind of card. Upstart Goblin. Arguments to be made for Into the Void. It clashes with Inferno, but it does set you up. Inferno is really... Into the Void is something that really should have been tested back then, I think. As risky as it is, it does enable somewhat of a turn 1 play, but then again, what are you drawing into, right? So maybe Into the Void is wrong, but definitely triple Upstart. Upstart at that moment should have been a 3, it's not on this list at all. Here, Ctrl F, Upstart, not showing any results. As far as I know, Edison is basically the same ban list. If Upstart did get limited, my bad. But yeah, Upstart should have been in there, for example. A lot of people make the wrong statement that Infernity Barrier should have been at 3 here. 1 is fine. 1 Infernity Barrier, if you draw it, it's fine. If you search it, usually is more than enough, if not just enough. You want the OTK, you don't want to set up the negate board. That's not what Infernity was doing back then. Also, arguments could be made for break over Barrier, since it does stop normal summons, get rid of floodgates. I'm not sure if Thunder King was legal back then, I'm sure it wasn't, but you had Consecrated Light and stuff. So not seeing break kind of confuses me, not in the side either. You know, Solemn Judgment makes sense, strong card. So I'm not entirely sure what you would cut, probably something like Trap Dust Shoot, strong as it is. Very situational, bad top deck. I've seen some idiots say, play Stygian Street Patrol, Shining Darkness, May 2010, Street Patrol. Way down later in the same year, like, Street Patrol wasn't out yet, people, seriously. But yeah, Into the Void was up for debate, possibly, if it's something that should have been tested, not sure how much it got tested, card was probably pretty expensive back then too. One barrier probably fine, maybe like a break. But yeah, there's definitely some issues in here that are just too huge, you know, like Gorse. No, it should not have been in there. Rota should have been in here. Stuff like that. So, did MBT... A lot of people... Well, I don't think a lot of people, but there might be people that blame MBT. I don't think MBT did any mistakes here. A lot of decklists for back then were kind of weird, which once again raised cheating allegations. Yeah. Infernity was an interesting deck back then. I'm not sure if it was even... It might have been a bit overrated back in the day, honestly, if you ask me. It's... Back then it was okay, but it really started to shine in XG's era and onwards. Issue with Synchro era is just that there's no consistent way to get to your cards. No matter how you build your deck. Once again, Into the Void's up for debate, but then suddenly Infernity Inferno is dead. You could then argue to replace those with breaks and barriers, which might work, but then you're not guaranteed. You know, it's a hard deck to build. I definitely wouldn't play this list, but yeah. Conclusion of this video, because it's been quite long. MBT did really well. Not sure how much better gameplay would have changed it, because Infernity back then, it just lacked consistency. And yeah, so once again, MBT just well done. I don't think he could have done much different. Decklist didn't look great, but if you were to ask me, I don't know about a decklist at the time. I would have to go through testing. And I don't play something like History of Yu-Gi-Oh, so I won't. But yeah, I definitely think X-Saber is a better deck than Infernity back then anyway. And that's coming from the Infernity god, so that says a lot. So yeah, this video was posted instead of Progression Series today. I'll probably do Progression Series tomorrow. Which of course was originally created by Simo, shoutouts to him while we're at it. But yeah, to clarify, no Infernity is not a bad card. Probably would have played it at 3, maybe consider Into the Void and changing the gameplay altogether. Go for a more Infernity heavy lineup with stuff like Barrier maybe, I don't know. Allure should have been in here. There's really no bad one off to banish, perhaps your Avenger, that's about it. Upstart should have been in here, no discussion, it's basically a wild card. Yeah, sure, OTK deck, but still, it's just too good of a card. Extra deck wise, I have to even check too much. I don't know which extra deck cards were legal at the time. By the way, you don't need Beetle to go into Mistworm if you really want to. It can be made in other ways. One of the more common ways to do it is double Archfiend and then the Avenger, for example. It's possible. There's also play better for that. So yeah, once again, decklist not optimal. Wouldn't blame MBT for it though, and he played well. So yeah, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace.